So I worked with Jess about 4 years ago. She was my team lead. I started calling her Papa in a meeting for no other reason than I thought it was really funny. And so did the rest of the team, so they started doing it too. She's a senior engineer leading AI implementation into her development teams and more at her company. And I'm sure she's doing quite a bit more that I don't even know about. What makes Jess very special, and the reason why I wanted her in on these conversations, is the fact that she champions junior developers. It's never a half-assed effort on her end to help somebody else and get them where they need to be and help them see the potential or the skill set in them that that person doesn't see, which is a big part of what we try to do here at Code Campfire. I came to her a while back. I asked her for help on the job hunt, tips, and whatnot, because I knew she had studied it, and she came back with, yeah, let me give you this 36-page document on everything that I've written up about it. So if that doesn't tell you that she's serious about it and she's wanting to give back and she's wanting to help, I don't know what will. But yeah, she is absolutely amazing. She helped me very early on in my career when I was not so great. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Anything you want to add on that, Jess?
No, that's it. Yeah, just I fully empathize that the transition in the junior market is not what it was. Back when I think you and I around the same time were transitioning into the junior market. So with that comes, how do we bridge that gap? How do we bring in the support and the big guns to help transitioning talent enter into tech? Because the last thing that I want is for everyone to jump on the AI innovation train, but then we leave this enormous void of the next wave of talent that will be backfilling people when they retire, senior developers, staff engineers, engineering managers when they retire, who it's great. Innovation sounds great, but unless there's a human in the loop, which you'll hear a lot in tech, that term, to take that place, it's pretty much all for naught. We've got to make sure that we're not just taking away and eliminating this sort of tier of developers. So yeah, I'm passionate about it. I definitely put a lot of time and a lot of support and a lot of resources into that. It's important.
I have two topics here for us today. We'll jump into the first one. I'll keep the other one a secret for a minute, but resume resume formatting. So I've had a lot of people who I go to, and we talk about how the big ones that I touch on, and there's some that aren't so big, but really the big ones here are, okay, the consistent formatting through it, why it matters. For me, it's the skimmability, and a number of other things, but what are the big gotchas that you see in resume formatting? What are the ones that you're just kind of like, whoever wants to do it one way? Do you think the single page system is an absolute yes, you have to have it, or 2 pages or 5 pages is totally fine? I'll kind of leave the floor open to you, but yeah, there's kind of a lot of the questions I've gotten here.
Well, I think this is in a lot of ways becoming just a very moot point because we often don't look at resumes in print format anymore. So really, we do look at them in PDF format. So it depends on which way you're uploading. If it is PDF, it's going to stick to a strict pagination. It's just like a printed form, 8.5 by 11 typically, that becomes converted into a document that way. If depending on what site you're uploading to, it may just be a long scrollable resume because it gets uploaded essentially and converted into just a scrollable digital format. So I think that that's less the question these days than it is, how are you going to beat the robots? Because everybody's going through, everybody's wanting to enhance and make their departments faster and optimized. And, let's try to eliminate the noise as much as possible so our people can do what we've hired and what we pay them to do. And HR is very expensive. So a lot of these companies across the board leverage platforms that use a system called ATS. Have you ever discussed that on the show?
No.
So ATS is basically you can think about it as your first rejection. It's your invisible rejection. So ATS if, technology will look at formatting. It sometimes looks at different ways that it's been told to filter out candidates, depending on how the company needs their candidates, whether it's, hey, we're only looking for people with a master's degree or higher. And then anyone who submits below that just automatically gets the auto reject, if that even happens, if the auto reject even comes. So, really, how do you make your formatting ATS friendly to where you can get past the first round of bots before a human even sees your resume? And I think that this is a conversation that we really don't talk to juniors enough about is job applications are almost a job in themselves. You have to stay current on the technology. You have to understand what filters are being placed in front of your resume before, like I said, it even gets to a human. And how do you optimize? So, the 36 page or whatever document that I have, it does have an ATS friendly format in there, but basically we can go more into that. But ATS are looking for a type of format that follows certain markers like headers, headings, so it knows which sections that it looks at it, breaks it apart, and it parses it into data. So it essentially does a key value. You can think of it as a key value map where
Hmm.
experience, okay, I've been told to look for experience. Now experience becomes an array, and you're going to have entries into that experience
Right.
array. And I'm looking for these keywords in here. So you want ATS keywords, and you want to have an ATS friendly resume format.
So there's a number of topics here that really hit home for me. So the first one being these automated systems, right? I've gotten to the point where I've actually, and maybe you completely disagree on this, right? But I've gotten to the point where I've actually told juniors to stop applying because I think you should be talking to people in the roles and networking in that way. We have like a whole system I walk through people here at Code Campfire, but we're not seeing success in any way. Now, granted, maybe it's because they're not using the correct formatting on that resume, right? But at the same time, the recruiters that I'm talking to are saying they're either they're no longer hiring outside because it's much safer to hire internally. So
Mm,
if you're networking and you know the people in there, right, then that ends up being the better bet because it's no longer you're no longer fighting against a system. You're fighting the man, basically, right? The person in front of you, if that makes sense. So the other phrasing that I've heard is you now have AI writing all of these resumes, but you also have AI sifting through the resumes, and it's just
yes,
AI hitting AI. So
right.
it's actually
It's
making
battle
recruiters
bots.
right.
100%
Yeah,
it
we got
is.
some Beyblade going on in the job market,
Yeah.
but it's making recruiters' jobs even harder because I am hearing from some teams we can't get good candidates. So like people are hiring, but when they are, it's a massive struggle to get the right people into place.
Yes. So I'm a senior engineer in my current role. I have led engineering departments. I've done engineering hiring. So I've sat on both sides of that desk. And I think that that's one of the reasons that you wanted me to have some sort of insight here.
Right.
But
Yeah.
one of the things that I will say are I have encountered some wild scenarios in hiring. And one of those is we are seeing this abundance of AI resume. People are wanting to sound like the best candidate. So they put the job description in and then they generate a resume. And so when people sound like the perfect candidate, it's usually like, okay, let me take a second look at this. I think it brings about some challenges. Another challenge that we're seeing with AI is the ability for eye tracking software, where essentially you can overlay your eye tracking to where on your video call you look like you're continually looking
Yeah.
at the
I know what
camera,
you're talking about. Yeah.
but you can look physically in your seat. You can look off to the side and read outputs from Claude or ChatGPT or something. But to the interviewer, you're not breaking eye contact and you blink occasionally because it blinks with your eyes in real time. This is wild. We're also seeing deep fakes. We're also seeing deep fakes where someone will put a deep fake over themselves because they are worried about bias, which is it's a whole conversation that I am very passionate about, because that also plays into ATS. ATS models are shown and proven to show bias against people that have historically been excluded from tech and tech jobs and tech conversations. So, but we're seeing deep fakes being used for people to get jobs, and it's a wild game
That
nowadays.
is not one that I have done a lot of digging into, and I
Yeah.
also haven't seen it come up in a lot of the conversations. So I'd be curious to reach back out to some of the recruiters that I've talked to, like, are you seeing any of this AI tomfoolery in these interviews? Because
Tomfoolery. I love that.
tomfoolery, that's what we're gonna call it from now on. Yeah, but that is wild. So back to, I guess, some of the original topic, which is, I guess we'll talk specifically on the single page thing, right? Do you like? I mean, really and truly, nobody's really reading it at this point, so it doesn't sound like you think the single page is worth it or not, right?
Yeah, so ATS. So I'm a little bit older. I joined the tech world a little bit older in my career. So I have 20 years of experience, either working in corporate or building strong teams in other industries, and then all of my tech experience. Even with 20 years of experience, I can still keep my resume, and I've always kept my resume to one page. Um, I think the challenge with that is you don't necessarily have to include everything you've ever done. We understand what if you are a junior, I'm more interested in seeing your relevant history, if that makes sense. So if you're coming in to a job interview and you've worked in the food service industry, I'm going to ask you specifically questions about how do you feel that experience will leverage your skill set as a developer. So I really think the challenge is I would stick as close to a page as possible, but more so from the sake of I want you to be deliberately choosing experience that is directly impacting you as you move into this role, as you move into this field. And I've got a
It's
whole document about that as well that we
Do you
can
have
talk about.
another 36-page
I
document on this,
do,
Jess?
actually. I
Why
do.
don't you send that
Okay.
over? We'll take a
I have a
gander at
lot.
it.
I have a lot. Now I have an
So
exercise that I do, and it's related to that.
down to the
I think another gotcha that I'm seeing is people not using the full width of the page.
Yes,
So they'll
they're
put
like, I
like,
have to keep this inch margin on it.
well, not just that, but they'll put like their job title and their previous job title and hit enter, and then they'll do something on the next line. Whereas I can put my job title dash the years that I did it
Right.
dash company, and that's
Yeah,
all in one
100%.
line. So I'm not hitting the carriage
And it still
return.
looks formatted. It still looks good. It's still
Correct.
skimmable. Like, as long as
Hmm.
it's skimmable, like, that's really what you're looking for. Like, really and truly for me, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here. I've always told people, I think it's best to probably have two resumes. They each have the same amount of content in them, right? One for the ATS reader, and that's just a simple Word document or PDF or whatever it's going to read into, right? And the other one being something that, like, for me, I always tell people, if I'm networking and I'm playing the person, not necessarily the system or the automated system, on my LinkedIn, if you go on my LinkedIn right now, you see the same navy and orange colors on my LinkedIn. And then if you go to my resume, you see those same colors on my resume. And if you go
Hmm.
to my YouTube, you see. So it's like this, it's almost like looking at McDonald's, right? I see McDonald's colors. I don't have to see the logo, but I see McDonald's and I think McDonald's. And I have had a couple other people, A, in sales or B, just in this recruiting field, say, like, yeah, like, it does make somewhat of a difference. Like, and it's not going to make or break you, right? But you're always, I tell people I'm always trying to get that little 1% up in every area that I can in this job hunt, because you need every bit of leverage that you can get, right? What are your thoughts on that in terms of A, the two resume thing, and B, just the color scheme thing, or do you think it's just kind of a waste of time, or you think it should just be black and white?
Color schemes don't really go into ATS. That usually gets filtered out. So when your resume gets digitized, it's that stuff won't be in there. It essentially gets parsed into, you can think of it like a React form or something.
Right,
Somebody's
right.
entering all that data and then it's pre-populating into a template. when it comes to memorability and branding, I think that that's worthwhile,
I'm
especially
talking
when
about
you're
when it gets in
talking.
front of someone.
Yes, when it gets in
Right.
front of somebody, or if you're, if you're networking at a local event and you have this resume, I don't want it to be flashy. I don't want it to be. I'll tell you, I don't want photos on there. That's one thing
I get that question a
that
lot. Should I put a
yep,
photo on there? I'm like, no.
I don't
They
want
don't care
photos
if you're
on
ugly or
there.
pretty.
I want the nitty gritty. I want the highlights. The people that would take the time to look at your resume in person at an event like that, they are very, very busy people who are usually donating or volunteering their time. So if I look at a resume and I see that you have a block of intro like this, I'm going to take a deep breath and say, do I have time for this right now? Or if it's short, snappy, think of it like sound bites. Hey, this is I am meeting you in passing. I'm going to say a quick bit about me. If you want to know more, you're welcome to ask. So I want to give you all of the meat right there. This is an opening to a conversation. It doesn't have to be the full conversation.
You make a good point there. You're talking about your intro. I assume you mean your professional summary, right?
Mm-hmm.
The professional summary has been a big point of discussion in so many different conversations that I've had. For example, I have gotten to the point where I tell people I don't think it is beneficial for a number of reasons. A, I think it should take up extra room on your resume, but it's also, if I go up and down, like we could have a whole hour conversation on just this one thing, but it's
Yeah.
I feel like I should be telling you who I am and what kind of worker I am through the bullet points in the job descriptions that I have and the projects that I've worked on, right? And through the points I'm making on that should be what's showing in my professional summary area. In fact, I've asked a lot of recruiters, they say no, we don't read them. But then I asked the some of the people at NSS and they did a whole poll on it, and they said every single company came back and said that the professional summary was one of the most important things that they wanted. Now,
I
that's
agree. I'm team professional summary,
okay.
and here's why. So I always like to do exercises when it comes to resume and job hunting where I relate a coding or software concept to the concept that we're trying to do here. So when we think about dry principles in coding, do not repeat yourself. So if you find yourself writing the same code over and over, chances are that's probably a function that we can write and make reusable. So where we're not maintaining all of these instances of the same code repeating, right? So the same thing is true of our resumes where we want dry principles. And just like you said, I think I should show myself through my bullet points that yes, your work ethic and your quantitative achievements in your roles, absolutely. So your professional summary, I know that everyone applying is going to say that they're a good worker. I know that everyone
Yes,
applying is going to
that's
say that
why.
they're
Yeah,
accomplished.
it's the same.
This is
It's like I'm a
where,
good worker. Like, yeah, go ahead.
yes, this is where you tell me what kind of teammate you are because
So
your
don't tell
bullets,
me. Yeah,
don't tell me anything that I'm going to see in the bullets. Don't sit there and say,
right,
I know
right.
React, blah, 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 this framework, Python. I'm going to read that. In either in your, you might have a technical bio where you say your skills. I have one that's, I've moved on to, I'm front end, back end, I've done DevOps, but I also have in my professional summary, and I can pull that up and read that for you. But I have a very quick thing about my leadership ethos, my leadership approach, or how I believe in approaching the team, or how I believe in thinking about a product as a whole. So, how do I approach code? You're not seeing
Right.
that in the bullet points. How do I
Right.
approach new projects? How do I approach being a team member? How do I approach communication? Things like that. So if it's not in a bullet point, that's your chance to shine. And it's also
I
your chance to show me personality.
yes. So I tell people like I'm really goofy, and like yes, I can be professional and still be goofy. And like if I have a professional summary on my resume, I'm gonna show a little bit of goofiness in there. Like it doesn't have to be anything like oh I don't have to be putting clown horns in there, right? But something to show even the slightest bit of humor, and it can be something very subtle and very clever or whatever. But the other thing
Or
too is
empathy, or, when you
right.
think
Yeah, it could
about,
be anything.
right.
Right. It's
Or tell me something that you're incredibly passionate about. Um, I love seeing resumes where somebody says, this isn't in my bullet points, but I'm particularly passionate about making websites accessible to other people or to everyone. So accommodation, thinking about things like that, or I'm also kind of a hardware nerd. I'm someone who really enjoys the boundaries between software and hardware. That tells me this person's probably one that's going to love puzzles, that's going to love challenges. So I don't always get that from bullet points.
it's so that's a really good point. I think to summarize, I think where people go wrong on this is they're trying to make, because they always put this whole, oh, I'm a great worker, I'm very passionate about software, I'm very passionate about whatever it is that they're putting on their resume. They're trying to be the perfect worker or person for any role. And I mean, I compare the job hunt a lot to dating. Like, don't just go for any job that has a pulse and blinks, right? Like, go for the job that is a good match for you, just like you should in dating. Like, it's a two-way street. Don't sit there and try to just take anything that comes your way, which in this job market, it's
Yes.
hard not to think like that. But you have to approach it like that, or you're not going to get that job. You can't do the, oh, let me just, shotgun spray and hope that something lands.
I think the strongest summaries are the ones with the confidence to say, this is the kind of technologist I am, rather than this is the kind of technologist I think you want. Mine says, this is my ethos. So one line from mine is, um, leader by title, full stack technologist by heart. And that tells someone, I might lead teams, I'm still close to the code. I still code. I still build in my free time. I'm still a nerd about it, because there's a bias of, as you move up and as you become and take on leadership roles, you get further from the keyboard. And that's not the case for me. I will never assign something to another developer that I wouldn't pick up myself.
That's really interesting, because I had a similar conversation with somebody the other day about like what I enjoy about code, and it's really not the code, it's the people. I've realized like more and more this past year that
Yeah.
I love like how people work and how people think, and there's a psychology when you build an app and how somebody's going to interact with it. Why did they navigate off that page? Why are 70% of my users bouncing off this page? Like, oh, probably because that button doesn't work. It could
Mm-hmm.
be anything, right? Or just the layout, or it just doesn't jive well. Like there's like a feeling associated with looking at a page. I know we've got a few minutes left here, so I want to make sure we make time for questions. But any last points you want to make on that, Jeff?
When in doubt, this is a great also network opportunity. I have people reach out to me on LinkedIn a lot, and they say, "Hey, don't send me a message and say, 'Hey, can you review my resume?' But you might send me a message and say, 'Could I have 5 minutes of your time?' Time box
Yep.
it,
Yep.
and just make that hello. That's a great network opportunity. Look for the people who are offering advice without necessarily putting a lot of boundaries on that advice. Meaning, don't fall into predatory traps where people are charging, $5,000 for a resume course. That's not what I want you to do. But look for people who genuinely support junior devs, and when in doubt, pass it between yourselves. Put yourselves in each other's seats as far as, if I was hiring, do I get a good impression of this person? Are the bullets there? And keep track of ATS.
If you guys have a topic you'd like for us to cover next, leave a comment down below and we'll be sure to get to it. In fact, if you'd like to join us live in these conversations, you can do so over at codecampfire.org. It's completely free to join, and I'll leave a link down in the description. Lastly, if you made it this far and you learned something new, please consider subscribing, as it really helps us out. I'll see you in the next one.